Ken James and Jason McKittrick, brought to you by Cryptocurium.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to another episode of Learning Lovecraft. I am your host, Jason McKittrick, and joining me, as always, the traveler of the Eldritch Path, Mr. Kenneth James.
Hello, folks.
And tonight we're going to be doing our first double-header, but also relaxed, light-fit kind of episode.
Yeah.
And let me tell you why that is. So we're going to be doing these two stories. It's The Quest of Iranon and The Moonbog. And in going back and rereading these stories, I've noticed, A, we've tread this ground before a couple times, specifically with Quest of Iranon. And the Moonbog is really just it's just not a very good story, and I don't know if it really adds much to what our purpose is here on this show, right?
Yes.
Because we're here to learn Lovecraft, and I kind of had to come to that conclusion because I was like, wait a minute, this isn't a slavish literary podcast. It's us, it's us having a good time talking about the stories, and more importantly, it's about Ken and him, learning this stuff and how it relates to his previous experiences with stuff like this.
Right, and even though these are two of the shorter stories, I was laboring through these.
They are very tough reads. I was
like, once again, Lord Dunsany all over it, and I just was like, come on, man. Like, I get it. It's early stuff. He's playing with stuff, but, like, it just isn't my cup of tea. Like, because even with the Moonbog, like, we go into the dream states again and all that, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but I just this was kind of my hardest week of reading in the podcast so far.
Because I would say, and we'll do little overviews of these, but I would say that specifically like Quest of Iranon, like Salafius did it so much better. Like I feel like that story does everything that this story does, and even a little bit of the tree. Right. So after I'm sitting down and reading these, and I messaged Ken, I was like, you know what, Ken, just read these both, and we're going to kind of do a little bit of a flyby on these. Not that we don't respect the material, and we know it builds towards something, but we just wanted to make this a little looser of an episode, and because next week we've got The Outsider.
Okay.
So, anyway, our first story, like I just said, The Quest of Iranon, was written on February 28th, 1921, and was first published in the Galleon in the August 1935 edition. So, they were scraping the bottom of the barrel, and they're like, "Hey, is any leftover HP stories?" They're like, "Ooh, we got this one," and they're like, "Oh, they're like, all right." Send. Full send. So a youthful singer named Iranon comes to the granite city of Teloth, saying that he is seeking his far-off home of Ira, where he was a prince. The men of Teloth, we'll go with Teloth, that sounds right? Who have no beauty in their lives, do not look kindly on Iranon and force him to work with a cobbler because he shows up, right?
Yeah, they're like,
and they're like, he's like, I'm here to bring you, beautiful songs. They're like, no.
Yeah, we don't.
No, we're too busy.
Yeah, what songs?
Yeah, what songs? He meets a boy named Ramnod, and I was like looking at this, like trying to see, is this like an acronym or is this like a?
It sure sounds like one.
I was looking at it, I was like, I don't know. It just sounds like a transformer or something. I don't know.
It does.
Yeah, and he similarly yearns for the quote, the warm groves and the distant lands of beauty and song. I was like, these guys. And it was at that point in the story where I was like, Ken's hating life now.
Yeah. I was like,
Ramnod thinks that nearby Unai, the city of lutes and dancing.
I gotta tell you, at this part where he's talking about this kind of stuff, I was like, is this H.P. Love? Like, what am I doing?
I know, and that's another reason why we're doing this, because it's like we've gone through the best of it, in my opinion. So this coming back again after we went through the best of it, which was Salafius, in my opinion, that he's coming back to it again because I think in this point in his life he's looking for his Cthulhu mythos. You know what I mean? He's like, what am I doing? Am I going to do the Greek stuff? Maybe it's the Greek stuff. Maybe it's the dream cycle Greek stuff.
Yeah, but he at this point I usually picture him like dark, dreary room, all black clothes, like fluffy white shirt underneath it.
Yeah.
these stories, well, especially this first one, I'm picturing him in like an ugly sweater with his like coffee.
So he's
and
the
a
lead singer of
typewriter.
Weezer
this
in this story.
He's Rivers Cuomo.
He is
in this
Rivers Cuomo,
Yeah,
isn't he?
good call.
He's got the Dungeon Master's Guide. Sorry.
He's
Sorry,
got his
folks.
dice. Yeah, I just wasn't. I was picturing a different H.P. Lovecraft while reading this.
And totally, and and this is more of that, and we've covered this before. And I don't want to retread it again, but I think this is his reminiscence stuff, his childhood stuff, these worlds that he created when he was a child. And I feel like when he doesn't know where he's going or what he's going to be getting on to the next thing, he kind of comes back to this kind of stuff
Goes
because
back to the
it's
well of
yeah. So it's where we're at. So we're talking about the city of lutes and dancing, and Ramnad thinks that might be Iranon's Ira,
like his place, like it's
that city he's looking for. Okay, let's go with Ira from here on out.
Okay.
Iranon doubts it, but goes there with Ramnad, and it takes a long time for them to get there, like long time. All right, and a weird thing starts to occur, right, where it's like Ramnad is actually aging, but Iranon isn't. Really strange, right?
Yeah. I kind of took that as like maybe a mental thing at that point.
Yeah. I think this is all that like weird, sorry to use weird, but weird allegorical stuff because it comes out that, we'll talk again. We're getting right through this, don't worry. So they're in this city of Ira, and they're welcome there for a time. Iranon, he wins praises for his singing and lyre playing, and Ramnad learns the coarser pleasures of wine. Yeah. So he gets liquored up.
Yeah. This guy becomes my favorite character, kind of.
Yeah. Years pass, like I mentioned. Iranon seems to grow no older, and as he continues to hope one day to find Ira, the city. Ramnad eventually dies of drink. And Iranon leaves the town and continues his quest.
Yeah, who is it? What was his name? Find something you love and let it kill you. It's like, all right, man.
Yeah. He's like, this wine is incredible.
Yeah. He's like, guess what?
Yeah.
Love this.
Finest vintage.
Yeah.
So he comes to this, quote, the squalid cot of an antique shepherd, and asks him about Ira. The shepherd looks at Iranon curiously and states that he had heard of the name Ira, but that it was merely an imaginary name invented by a beggar's boy who he had known long ago. This boy, quote, given to strange dreams, provoked laughter by thinking himself a king's son. At twilight, an old man is seen walking calmly into the quicksand. That night, something of youth and beauty died in the elder world, is the closing quote.
Yeah.
So, that's the story.
Yeah.
So it's,
That's my favorite part. When I got to the end, I was like, you know what? Didn't hate it because of the ending.
Yeah.
Because we all know that guy or those guys or girls or people that are just like, oh my, it's all, no. They play this role to themselves.
Yeah.
And then one day, someone just takes the wind out of their sails.
Yeah.
And you just see the life leave them, and you're like, yes.
Wait, but Limp Bizkit's the greatest band that ever. No.
Ska was never good music. You know, you hit them, and they just.
Wait a minute, you guys don't like Creed too?
Yeah.
No. Scott Stapp is not the awesomest.
No one's ever really liked Coldplay, you know?
Interesting. Hot take Kenny over here.
Yeah.
So going over some notes by the Josh man himself, S.T. Joshi, our guy. He describes the quest of Iranon is among the best of, put that in quotes. Sorry, ST. The best of HPL's Dunsanian imitations. But it's, I feel it's just retread ground, and it's an interesting idea that this illusion keeps him young. It's so he's so grasped onto it that he's
This story would have been so much shorter if it wasn't for grandiose explanation of things again.
Well, that's the problem. The language in this is probably, if someone were to say to me, hey, give me an example of his most flowery purple prose, what would it be? I would hand him the Quest of Iranon. I'm like, here you go. If you really want to hate HP, start with this.
Yeah,
and it's a shame.
Yeah, it is. But that's the thing. Like I said, I was just laboring to get through it, and I'm just like, oh my god, this doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
I'm reading right now. I'm reading something that doesn't matter at all.
It's like games after you clinched.
Right. True.
So I think it's kind of, it's
At least
pressure.
they're still kind of fun to watch,
Yeah, I mean, we can make fun of this. I'm having fun.
Yeah, right.
I'm having fun making fun of it.
Because he's
after the
got
fact.
his vine crown, and he just
Yeah.
flutters around this. I'm here to sing you songs, and
Yeah.
you're like, no, you're not, dude.
Yeah. Two interesting pulls from this that was the only, in my opinion, that I thought was interesting and maybe interesting for you, and you may have missed it, and if you did, that's okay, because this story is whatever.
When he talks about Sarnath.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
And there's another one that you probably didn't realize because it was from a very early story. They mentioned Lomar.
I was looking and I was like, and I'm trying to think of what Lomar was.
That's from Polaris.
Okay.
Now, in that story, involves the weird passing of time.
Right.
So I think he didn't do a very good job of it, but I think he was giving us those, like, okay, here's this ancient culture thing, but then also here's this, time plays a factor in this. So
It trickled in here, and he's like,
like what is it? He's during his journey to find Ira, he sees the where Sarnath was,
Right.
And then he just mentions Lomar.
Yeah, he was like, I was in the field where Sarnath used to be, and it's just like, I was like, oh, Doom came there.
the Doom.
Yeah.
But that one was way more fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got jelly monsters killing people. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not?
I mean, it's nowhere near as cool as banging a gorilla. You know.
I think we're going to have to do something special with Arthur German,
Yeah.
because that seems to be your.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. And I think the Tomb, actually, my first one, the Tomb is still up there for me.
Yeah.
Amanda, no. What was it?
Statement of Randolph Carter.
Statement of Randolph Carter and the big ultraviolet.
From Beyond.
From Beyond. Those are my guys.
I hear you. We got some great ones
And
coming
then to
up, I
get this
promise.
thrown in my face, I'm just.
Hey, you know what, though? Here's how I view this kind of stuff. These are the stories that are going to make when we get to, like, the epic, amazing ones, where it's like, okay, I got through that crap. Now, how do you enjoy the good times without the bad times, right?
Yeah.
Right, so...
Tale as old as time.
Anything else on Quest of Iranon?
Yeah, my favorite part,
Mm-hmm.
is just hitting someone with just, irrefutable truth that sucks the child out of them,
I mean, it can be satisfying.
It is. When they just realize, they're just like,
Right.
LARPing isn't cool, You're like,
Ooh. Hot take Kenny today.
no, I'm just saying things that, like, you...
Yeah.
Just to get a reaction. But when you see someone who is so built up in their world of BS, and then you just, and you're like, now go be miserable like the rest of us.
Nice.
Take it with you.
All right, so that brings us on to our second story in this double feature of mediocrity. We have The Moonbog, right?
Yes.
Which, once again, written shortly before March 10th in 1921, and then first published in WT. I don't know what that is. In June of 1926. This was written for a St. Patrick's Day gathering of amateurs in Boston the week before St. Patrick's Day. So it had to be Irish themed, which is interesting because you don't see that with this stuff like almost ever.
Yeah.
This might be the only one. There's Irish characters or characters with Irish last names, but in Ireland, this is.
Yeah, this is rare.
That is rare. So we have Dennis Barry, right, who comes from America over to Ireland to reclaim an ancestral estate in Kildare, Ireland.
The imaginary Kildare.
Yes, the imaginary, which is not real, but it sounds like something good. It sounds like Kildare or just, I don't know. It sounds Irish. I was convinced.
Yeah.
And he decides to empty the bog on his land. Now, for all his love of Ireland, America had not left him untouched, and he hated the beautiful wasted space where peat might be cut and land opened up. American. He brings his American taste over there. Now, they don't mention it in there, but if you've ever seen anything about like the Irish bog bodies or things like that, you ever see those where they're mummies, basically?
Yeah.
That bogs were viewed as like sacred places, and things would be thrown into them as offerings. So this is one of those ones where it's like, here comes the modern guy into the ancient green island, and then he comes into this family estate and he wants to start cutting into the land immediately. It's like, well, there you go. This is why he deserves.
You're upsetting the beauty of the past that was here.
Yeah. with your American nonsense.
With your American nonsense.
Yeah, that's what it is. So the peasants refuse to assist him for fear of disturbing the spirits of the bog. Barry calls in outside workers, and the project continues apace. Although the workers start suffering from these weird dreams, and they're really tired.
Yeah, and if I hear the word, as reading this, I was like, if I read the word dream one more time,
right?
I was just like, come on, man.
Well, dreams will come into almost every other story, but in a good way.
Yeah, but like here, it's I know where we're going. It's in that same theme.
Yeah, you opened it up, you saw Ireland, you're like, okay, fairies, where are we going?
Right.
The fae folk.
Yeah.
So one night, the narrator, Barry's friend, awakes and hears a piping in the distance, right? He says, quote, wild, weird airs that made me think of some dance of fauns on distant Mainalis, which Mainalis was that mountain in the tree.
Right.
So he's starting the callbacks. Not good callbacks.
Yeah.
But the callbacks are starting. Then he sees the laborers dancing as if under some form of hypnosis, along with, quote, strange airy beings in white, half indeterminate in nature, but suggesting pale, wistful naiads from the haunted fountains of the bog. Kind of reminds me of in Lord of the Rings when like Frodo puts on the ring and he looks at the ring wraiths.
Yeah.
What they look like. That's kind of like it was reminding me of.
Okay. I'm getting more cute, wispy things. Like,
Cute. Okay.
Like, let's say not cute, but more flowy and like airy. Like I'm not getting so like smoky, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because like they were kind of like drippy and smoky.
No,
in their garb.
I gotcha. I don't know. That's just what I was grasping for something fun.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, like, because I'll be honest, if I read this, I don't remember reading this one. This is one of the ones I was like, I don't really remember this very well. I don't know, which tells you that I didn't come back to it since now.
And the cool part doesn't come till the end.
Yeah. So the next morning, the workers seem to remember nothing of the night's events. The next night, things reach a climax, though. The piping is heard again, and the narrator again sees the white-clad bog wraiths. That's a band name.
Yeah, white-clad bog wraiths.
Yeah. Or that could have been one of the things in Cabin in the Woods that you could.
That was in one of the.
Who had white-clad bog wraiths?
What do you pick up? It's a shamrock. You pick up a shamrock, and it's
probably
a
shamrock, or if you kiss the Blarney Stone, that's when they come out. Yeah, look it up. And he sees them drifting towards the deeper waters of the bog, followed by the mesmerized laborers. And I thought this was kind of cool. Like, this was probably the coolest part in it. Like, these bog ghosts having people, like almost like a Pied Piper kind of thing, drawing them into the bog. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Until you get the pathetic fat cook. It's just like,
why me? I fed everybody.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And he's just making fun of him as he goes. He's just like, ugh. You're like, now it's just even sadder. You know, he's like, disgusting.
They should have called him Cookie.
Yeah, they should have.
Yeah.
They probably did.
Yeah. And then that's it right there. That's the only cool part in the story, because then right after this, a shaft of moonlight appears and, quote, upward along that pallid path my fevered fancied picture, a thin shadow slowly writhing, a vague contorted shadow struggling as if drawn by unseen demons.
Shut up.
Right. And it was Dennis Barry, who is spirited off and never seen again. But why? Why does he get that treatment?
I don't know.
Like, he's the one that cut into the earth. It's his idea. Why are the workers the only ones punished? It's really weird. Like, I was actually like thinking about it for quite a bit. I was like, why does he get drawn up?
Yeah, and then even the very end part, I still
With
like
the frogs.
Yeah, the frogs, and then like, what does he call it? The effigy of him is it's almost a sacrilegious. What does he call it?
I don't remember the exact quote.
Yeah, but it's just like, so it's like almost like a martyr style
statue
or effigy of this guy. It's like, why are they celebrating him with a chorus of frogs?
Like, the only thing I can think of is that maybe there's like, because this is his ancestral home, maybe he's coming back and he's atoning for sins from back then. I don't know. Or maybe because he's from that place and maybe his ancestors made these rites happen, because remember, there's the time where he looks across to that little island and he sees like the ruins, but then they're not ruins anymore. So maybe it's like he's protected in some weird way because his family was like took care of this land for so long.
And then he brought back the glory and splendor to it.
I don't know. And that's where I kind of take issue with it, because this is one of these stories where it's like, you could tell he didn't come back to it, because he had a habit of doing that. He would come back and fix it and make it ready for publication. And I think because he wrote it for this St. Patrick's Day gathering, he read it that day and was like, all right, I'm done with this.
Yeah, he mentioned Ireland. They were all like, "Gah!" And then they were, he's like, my work is done.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I know what I have to do.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to do it, but if I said potato in here, they're going to go nuts.
Yeah.
And he's like, nope.
He's like, he said to his friend, he's like, I'm toying with the word shillelagh.
Yeah.
Should I put it in here?
Irish thorn cane, you know?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, just say beer and Ireland and we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, and that's it. And that's the end of the story. I mean, and you're kind of just left with like, hey, man, that started to go somewhere.
Yeah, it got kind of cool.
And like, did he write this the night before?
Probably.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and
he hopped in his Dunsany train and just started spitting descriptions of stuff, and you're just like, yeah. Well, wait, there's a cool procession of almost like drawn by like a clumsy demon energy.
Yeah.
And you kind of see that, what that looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then then he wakes up again, and he runs through inky black rooms.
Yeah. I feel like this had the germ of a good story, but he knew he was just like, he knew he wasn't going to publish it, so he just like, well, my work is done. He did it for an effect. He had this weird effect where he had the people drawn in, and like, it feels like this was just what it was for. And even our buddy S.T. Joshi says, I mean, this tale is one of the most conventionally supernatural in HPL's work. It's just, there's nothing very outside about it. It's spooky, like ancient kind of ghost, which could be cool, but I don't really think he really didn't
tidy it up.
Yeah, so it's why we have this. We're doing this this double episode here, and
he just like dumped out the toy box,
kinda,
and he was like, this
is odds and ends.
And it's just like he's just got like two completely different action figures fighting.
Yeah,
one's really cool, and the other's just like, it's basically a clump of dirt. And he's just like, oh.
Yeah. It's Forky from Toy Story 4.
Yes.
I'm garbage.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the wrap up for those two. I'm sorry it was such hard reading for you.
It just was. I mean, I don't know. I don't, and maybe it says more about me than it does the stories, that when he gets into those like spinning, explanations and descriptions, I just check out. I'm like,
I hear you. I mean, if it serves the story, and like, there's many times where, and I think we said this in the beginning of the before we started the podcast, that some of these things you'll read and you'll be like, I don't know what I just read.
Yeah, right.
And you have to kind of go back and reread it. And there's plenty of times when you do that, it serves the story, and you're like, oh, and you have a deeper understanding, and it's almost like you're almost meant to read it a couple times.
Yeah. Well, when it's like that, you're like, it's kind of worth it. But then when you get to the payoff and you're like, I spent so much time on that paragraph.
Yeah.
Just unraveling this.
Well, it's keeping our Lovecraftian muscles limber.
Sure. It's like when you don't want to go to the gym, those are the days you have to go.
Exactly.
You gotta push through.
Now I know this is kind of like a loose kind of fit episode where we're doing our thing here, but did either of these remind you of anything, or did this have anything that you were like, oh, okay, maybe this reminded me of a movie that I saw or something, but anything like that?
I don't know, man. I just like anytime someone gets crushed and like become like a different person in a movie.
Yeah.
Like you go like Blast from the Past, Brendan Fraser, this like, he's like this like guy from like the 50s, and he's raised like that.
Right.
And then he goes to the real world and he just gets smacked with all this new reality and everything. Yeah. And by the end he's just like a dude that's kind of crushed.
Yeah.
But you almost respect him more because he's not so about everything. That's kind of anything that's like that. I kind of that's what I kind of take from it. And
I know there's not much.
The Moonbog.
Yeah.
It's like you want to say like I'm like high spirits because it's Irish ghosts.
Yeah.
And the aesthetic, there's bogs and stuff like that, and they're running through the woods, and they start to describe the inky black rooms and all these different things. Yeah. It's like I guess I go there just because of the aesthetic of the whole thing. And there actually is real ghosts, and there's like when they come out, and you're like, oh, cool.
Right, but what you would expect from, and I think we've gone through a few stories where you would expect, like, he shows us the bog ghosts, but then later on we would get some kind of weird description. It's like, oh, you think it's this, but it's actually this.
Right.
We don't get that.
Yeah.
And
He's like, no, they're ghosts. You're Irish.
Yeah, right.
Take it.
Yeah, which I don't think he liked the Irish people either.
Sure.
That's what he does.
I think he said ugly a couple times in there.
Yeah.
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 Right.
I don't know, man.
Half of me hurts. Half of me hurts HP.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, right.
More than half.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's honestly, I'd love to give you some more, some great Lovecraftian morsels, but this was just, like I just said, stretching our Lovecraftian muscles, because this is just, it's two very, very lesser stories, almost fragments even.
Yeah.
One is another retread of, with Quest of Iranon is a retread of a lot of the stuff we've already been over and done better.
Right.
And then Moonbog is just it's kind of just a one-off, and just he had to release a single, and he was like, oh god, they're like, we need a holiday release. Oh shit, and he just dumped out the action figure box,
threw potatoes at a wall, called it a day,
popped off Skeletor's head, put it on Mossman's body.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it looks Irish, it's mossy, it's got a skeleton. Is this it? This is what you want? They were like, I guess, Howard.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
They probably loved it, though.
They probably did.
Yeah, they were all drunk, like,
because I'm
they're all singing after it.
Yeah. Hey, Lovecraft at his worst is still probably better than a lot of people.
Sure. You could sure talk circles around people, I'll tell you what.
Yeah. All right, well, so for next time, and I'm very excited, and I want to say it on air, The Outsider.
Right.
Don't research it. I
won't. Hands up.
I'm going to guarantee it. I'm going to put the stamp of approval on here. You are going to really love this story. Okay. It's one of his most well-known. It's a macabre tale, but it's not, and it's not mythos, but it's amazing.
Right.
And I can't wait to talk about it. So if you are following the journey along with us, with me and Ken, for the next time, go ahead and read The Outsider. And if you're a Lovecraft fan, you've probably read it. But if not, give it another reread, because we're going to dive into it, and I think there's going to be a lot to say about it.
Come along with me.
Come along with both of us. So for this episode of Learning Lovecraft, I've been Jason McKittrick.
And I've been Ken James.
And we'll see you beyond the Wall of Sleep.